movies of the year by Time Magazine and Roger Ebert, and the rest of the country agrees. Kevin Costner in an Oliver Stone film.
Let justice be done, though the heavens fall.
JFK, rated R. Now playing at a theater
My
near
first
you.
guest, you all know, last year he won 7 Academy Awards, including Best Director, for the Do Not Get Ahead of Me people on this. Thank you. For the film Dances with Wolves, he is currently starring in Oliver Stone's movie JFK, and most impressive to me, he is a member of the Mustang Owners Club. Please welcome Kevin Costner, ladies. There you go. Don't let him get ahead of you. Well, it's good to see you. Nice to see you again.
Thank you.
The first time we met was, where were we, in Durham, North Carolina?
Yeah,
right?
we were making Bull Durham, and when you're far away from home, sometimes when you see somebody you call your, from your hometown, so to speak, Hollywood. We wanted to go see it. It was great.
Oh, yeah, they came to the show. That was great.
Yeah,
Came
no,
backstage.
you were very funny again.
And you had your Mustang with you then. We both had Mustang owners.
Kept him outside, though.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm. And you still have that car?
Yeah, I do actually.
Now, were you a car guy? Because you grew up around here, right?
Well, I really wasn't into car culture. I mean, I kind of play the kind of people in movies that you expect. If they lift up the hood, they know what's going on and what's wrong with it. I'm really not that. I'm really not that type. The Mustang I got was off of Bull Durham, and I wanted the car, but the producer was kind of being a little stingy with it, wanting a little. He wanted to make a profit off me after making this great movie. And I remember I was so upset with the whole idea that I said, I don't want the car now. I don't want it. And my wife, Cindy, knew how bad I wanted it. She did one of those kind of real movie hero kind of things. She didn't tell me. She took a checkbook. She wrote the check out and went and threw it down on the desk. Says, give us a damn car, okay? We want the car.
Yeah.
So,
there you go. Good for her. Whenever I read the articles about you, always describe yourself as a late bloomer and all those kind of things. Were you, were you into this in high school? And did you know you wanted to act and direct?
No, I was a late bloomer. Things are going good now. I got it going my way. But no, I didn't know. I mean, I always knew that I was performance-oriented. But you don't ever... I always felt that people that were in the movies were, like, born there. When I was young and I thought that that's what they do when I go to school or I live where I live. It's hard to imagine that people would make a living doing this, and so I never imagined myself doing it.
Yeah, you don't think, especially when you have relatives. Well, you grew up out here.
Right.
I mean, I grew up in Massachusetts. At least you were around it, See, don't get ahead of me on this again, as I tell you. I always remember my aunt saying to me, we're not show people, Gene. We're not just... Well, what did your dad do? What kind of line?
My dad worked for the Edison Company here in Los Angeles, and every time he was promoted, we moved. So I went to a lot of different schools. I went to 4 different high schools. So I was kind of a gypsy even back then. Yeah, moving around a lot.
Oh, okay. So you couldn't really get into the acting. Did you all around California? Where did you?
Yeah, I lived up in the valley and Visalia and Santa Paula and Ojai and Ventura and Orange County. So I was a lot of.
So whenever there was a blackout, your dad would move on to the next place, pretty much. Okay, so how was? I don't know. You said he worked for Edison.
Yeah.
So how was their reaction when you said? Did you ever have any other job? I mean, did you ever?
Oh, I had a lot. I used to be a fisherman off the coast of Canada, and I drove trucks. I was a carpenter, so I've always been a blue-collar deal.
We have a blue-collar guy. So, okay, you go to your parents and you say, I'm going to give up the gig I have and go into acting.
Yeah. Well, I'm very close with my family, and I think I don't know how to make a joke out of this, so I guess the serious idea of it was I remember my dad coming to me and saying, I think it was one of the things that pained him most in his life, because I think a father wants to help his son and everything, and he came to me. It was a very quiet time, and he said, look, I feel bad about this because I have no way of helping you. I have no way of knowing what that world is. I don't know what those people are like. And so when he, kind of said goodbye to me, knew what I was going to do, and all he could do was pat me on the back. I know that was a tough time for him, but they were supportive of it.
Yeah, that's terrific. Now, but you went to work, didn't you have like a straight gig, financing, marketing, or something?
Well, I went to college like everybody else. I was in that maze, that kind of white rat thing where you go high school, got to find a college, got to find a job, got to find a thing. I was in that kind of mode like everybody gets into, and I had to pick a major like anybody, and I knew, you know, liberal arts wasn't the deal. I mean, I was smart enough to go, well, I might as well be a business guy, you know. And I was equally dumb businessman, you know. So.
Were you a businessman at one point? Put on the suit and tie?
No, I tried. I took a job for about 30 days, and I finally came home and I said, I can't do this thing. I can't do it. And you know, and Sin says, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I think maybe I'll try to write. And she said, you can't even spell, you know.
Yeah,
so it was a very tough time for us, you know. We sorted it out.
Let's talk about JFK for that. I saw it the other night. I thought you did a terrific job
Thank
with the
you.
film. Now, I understand now. You didn't want to make it at first. You had reservations about making the film. What were the reservations?
Well, I had been working a lot. And everybody that knows, you know, I'd put a lot of movies behind me, and the idea of going off with Oliver Stone, because he just really doesn't take any prisoners. I mean, he is really not a daisy about anything. And I knew I was going to be looking at his fire in his eyes every day for a lot of months, and I wasn't sure I was up for that, having just done all these movies. But it became important to me. It was important to Cindy, and we talked about it. And now I'm as proud of that film as I could ever be, really.
Oh, I think you did a terrific job. Well, we'll talk a little bit more right after this one. Get a clip from it. Be right back with Kevin Costner. Welcome back. We are talking with Kevin Costner, talking about JFK. Now, the movie has gotten, and obviously a lot of people doing jokes about Oliver Stone's, you know, second theory jokes. And why do you think it's taking so many? I mean, people are attacking it not as a movie, just on the whole political grounds and everything. Has that been a problem for you? Or?
Well, I think that there's been an existing truth for about 20, 25, 28 years. Who knows how that runs? 25, 28. That's funny how you move to those. 25, 28. There's been a discrepancy about what's happening. Oliver comes along and bases a movie on tremendous amount of information that we have learned since that time. And so, you know, some people will have a tendency to call that a myth, and Oliver says, well, he doesn't feel that the movie's a myth, either do I, but he says it's an alternate to the myth that we were fed 25 years ago. And for him to take all these body shots, you know, when he makes a movie that ultimately is entertaining, that's why, you know, I did it, because I found a truth in it. I think it's rough. I don't think it's fair.
Do you find it's different? Like, I'm old enough to remember. I was in the 8th grade when Kennedy was shot. So I remember some of it. Do you find a difference with younger people? I mean, to me, when I watch a movie about D-Day or World War II, I watch it as a movie. Yet I talk to somebody 65 or 70, and they go, oh, it wasn't like that at all, and this is wrong, and they did this wrong and that wrong. But to me, it's a movie. Do you think younger people go to see it as a movie? Do you think they really see it as more a piece of history?
I think they will, because of the movies I make, I try to make entertaining. The movies I've made since people have been going to see them. And so there has to be that thread of entertainment, and I don't mean entertainment in a lightweight vein in this instance, but I mean there's a dramatic arc to it. You know, there's a dramatic, there's an emotional truth in this movie, and I think that young people are ready for this movie, as we are. I mean, I found that I was enlightened about a lot of things. I mean, it's the kind of movie that I think that we'll look back on. It might be a movie of the decade type of movie, and oftentimes movies, take A Raging Bull, for instance, where I think everybody acknowledges now that's one of the great movies of the last 10 years, and I think that JFK, in Raging Bull, legitimately raised a lot of controversy. A lot of people didn't like it because it's violence, it's vulgarity. In 10 years now, we're kind of going, gee, we're sorry we kind of beat up on you, Marty, about that movie. And I think that where Oliver Stone's considered JFK, if you haven't seen it, try to see it, because there's something there. And I think it's a movie that we might feel bad that we ignored in some way because we listened to a lot of other people.
Well, it also shows you the power of film. And if you wrote another book on the Kennedy assassination, you gave your opinion, no one would question your right to write the book.
Right, make another movie.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, you're really just taking your idea and put it into film. I mean, I think everyone agrees there's probably more to the story than we know.
It's true. There's no question about it.
I mean, if it gets people interested in history, I think it's accomplished certainly its goal.
Right. Judge Thomas and Anita Hill can't agree on one idea about
I can't wait for that movie.
You know.
Oh, yeah.
Not to drag their lives into some, you know, bad joke or anything, but they can't agree on one little issue. I mean, we're talking about the President of the United States, and that there's hundreds of witnesses on some level, and is it any wonder that they can't agree? It was tough sifting through that, and I think he did one of the great jobs that could ever be done where film's concerned.
Well, it is to take a story everybody knows and make it exciting, you know, when you already know the story.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we have a clip here. Now, this is the summation scene?
Yes, I think it is.
It's
Right.
Kevin Costner in JFK. Let's take a look.
The truth is the most important value we have, because if the truth does not endure, if the government murders truth, if we cannot respect the hearts of these people, then this is not the country in which I was born in, and it's certainly not the country that I want to die in. Tennyson wrote, "Authority forgets a dying king." This was never more true than for John F. Kennedy, whose murder was probably one of the most terrible moments in the history of our country. You, the people, the jury system sitting in judgment on Clay Shaw, represent the hope of humanity against government power. In discharging your duty and bringing the first conviction in this house of cards against Clay Shaw, that's not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Do not forget your dying king. Show this world that this is still a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. Nothing as long as you live will ever be more important. It's up to you.
Let me ask you about now this new movie you're doing now. I know you rushed over it. The Bodyguard?
Right. It's a movie written by a friend of mine, Larry Kasdan, who has written some great movies for us. Body Heat, Silverado, Billy's latest, Grand Canyon. You know, he's just one of the great writers. It's called Bodyguard, and I'm doing it with Whitney Houston. It's her first movie.
That'd be a good body to guard. Yeah. So they put you. I like guys that are good audiences. You know. So they got you. You play the body. Are you a body?
Yeah, she's a star that's very difficult to guard. She's temperamental. She has all these things, and it's territory I've seen now and understand. But it's an action movie, or as much action as I'll usually endorse.
Yes.
You know, like one guy gets killed, so what? No, it's a really good. It's a good thinking person's movie, and she's great in it. And she looks right. We waited 3 years for her to...
Oh, yeah? Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Yeah, it was
terrific.
important.
Well, I know you got to get over there now, and I know you
Thanks.
stopped by, and I really appreciate it. Kevin Costner.
Thank you very much.